57,
Dude,
the
I'd have
kids
to
don't
put
go out.
socks on, which is just a non-starter. So, well, what are we talking about, Peter? I know we're going to talk about a couple things as always from different categories.
Yeah, we're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about familiar media, and we're going to talk about hard-coded solutions.
That's
And
quite the cornucopia of topics,
yeah,
but very representative of the things we like to talk
I
about.
want to tease it a little bit. That's what the pro
Sure.
podcasters do. They always say something like, and I want to ask you about this, but let's come back to that. First, I
And
want to ask
stay
you
till
about
the end
this.
to get a
Yeah, and you're kind of
free
like, oh wait,
bonus
what was that? I want to hear that other thing. Let me just wait for the next 39 minutes through this whole episode.
for a very underwhelming payoff.
Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about burnout. I was just kind of reflecting to you that I'm going through. I'm not feeling burnt out, but I'm feeling stuck in a few patterns
Yeah.
in certain parts of my home and business world.
Yep.
And I'm feeling like I need a bit of a reset or a bit of a new way to approach some of these things because I feel like the grooves of how I'm behaving and how I'm relating to things have gotten really deep. I just turned 40 this year. And
Yeah.
so I've gotten a lot of passage over these neural pathways.
Yeah.
And that's not always healthy. Some of those
Yeah.
are useful. You build up habits, you build up relationships, and others, you may have bad habits or you may have
Yeah.
bad ways of relating to things. And I'm just kind of looking for some approaches to
Yeah.
this. And you said you might have some ideas. So,
Yeah. So I'll give one that's like a normal one, and then I'll give my wacko one. I think the normal one, and I've talked about my mixed feelings, and I'm actually doing something like this right now. Uh, a very specific example, but I've talked about my mixed feelings for Tony Robbins.
yeah.
Right? I have a lot of, I can like parts of Hormozy. Again, our favorite topic here. I have mixed feelings. There are sometimes I say, and I'm like, that's such a brilliant way to say that, and I'm going to reference that. And then there are other things I'm like, come on, man, like, come on. And I feel similarly about Tony Robbins, and I can have a nuanced view of somebody and say they're not a scammer, but they're also not Jesus, right?
So I call this
Which
like the
is
Moses Kagan test. Is this
what's
something
that?
Moses Kagan would do? That's sort of how I
Correct,
think about,
correct.
some of Hermosi stuff.
It's
I'm like,
good.
Moses would never do this. This
Correct.
is just too
Put
far.
a donate link instead of just saying buy my book. It says donate.
Yeah.
Like, would Moses do that? No.
Right.
It's a great, excellent test. Okay. And I think about some Tony Robbins stuff, and like I'll watch his stuff. Like I'm a student of all human people, right? He's obviously had a huge impact on the world. But what I think he does, and I will very clearly express how I'm doing it right now, is he says basically, if you want to change, you have to take massive action. Like
Mm,
massive action.
massive
And
action.
he uses the word massive action. And, I have many fascinations of which several of, Marine Corps doctrine, sumo wrestling, prisons. One of
Prisons.
Oh,
I'm not
dude, I
familiar
love
with the
prisons.
prisons
Oh,
one.
dude, I love prisons and interrogation. I love maximum
Okay.
security prisons. Uh, like, yeah, it's incredible. The SHU, the special housing unit, like it's incredible. Movement policies, it's great. Um,
If I wanted to dip my toe in this water, what series on Netflix should I check
you
out?
should watch Locked Up on YouTube.
Locked
Watch like
Up.
Locked Up Supermax, and you can get like a view inside like what it's like and like the collar, where they're like holding the Unabomber. It's incredible.
Okay.
And just like what that's like. So prisons are one of my fascinations. But another one of my fascinations is sobriety, is like the 12-step program, mostly because it's like dealing with humans as they are, and behavioral change, which is a favorite topic of mine and stuff like that. And I used to like Dr. Drew a ton, but he's an addiction therapist. I read all the addiction literature. Like I'm super into addiction and recovery. I'm not an addict. I'm not like a, major drug user, but I just like that stuff. Alcohol recovery and all that stuff. And they're like, hey, you're in sobriety. You need to get rid of all your friends, and you might need to go to 2 meetings a day, 7 days a week.
Mm.
Two meet. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to drink a little less, and I'll still go to the parties, but I won't. They're like 2 meetings a day for the rest of your life, because this is a existential battle with you and your relationship with this substance. It's not this like, and so it can't be like, yeah, I'm just going to aspire to. It's like you need to freaking be insane. And so I'll in my or you comment before I keep going.
Yeah, so that's massive action, right?
Yeah,
That is massive
insane massive
action.
action. Yeah.
And I want to reflect a little bit on this because when I think about making changes in my life, I try there's like a barbell this is what some of your fancy economist authors would call this. There's like a barbell approach I like, which is
Okay.
I like to either make very small incremental changes like, "Oh, when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna put my slippers over
Yeah.
here so I
Do
remember to put
10
them
push-ups.
on so
Yeah.
that my feet aren't cold and I'm not grumpy," and, like,
Yeah.
just, like, tiny little tweaks that are so easy to integrate and are brainless and effortless, right? Because I know that I can do those things. I put my keys by the back door so I remember and I don't little behavior I love stuff like that. Small optimizations. I'm a big optimizer. Um, and then the other side of that barbell is the massive change, massive action where you're like, "I'm selling all of our cars." And you just like you kind of force yourself through a one-way door on something that you know has to change. Um, it's the medium stuff that never works. The medium-sized changes never stick. "I'm gonna work out twice a week." No, you're not. Of course you're not. You're gonna do that for 3 weeks. We all know that, right? What I did when I decided I needed to work out is I hired a personal trainer twice
Yeah.
a week for an hour and committed to,
Yeah.
like, a year with this guy,
Yeah.
which was a
And paid in
massive change.
advance.
I was not
Yeah.
working out at all prior to
Yeah.
that, so I would
That's
call that a
yeah.
massive action. So I never really thought of it in this way until you just sort of forced me to articulate it, but I that is how I think
You're
about
doing medium
making
right now.
change.
You're doing medium right now,
Yeah,
right? You're
you're
not
right.
doing medium, right? You could write one page at night about the things you're grateful for, that would be the small, that'd be the baby.
Yeah,
And then the massive is like, I'll tell you, for example, for me. So I am currently on I have some health and wellness goals that I'm chasing pretty hard right now. I'm currently like very deep in ketosis, and I signed up for a half marathon in like 3 months. Not because I think running is particularly healthy, but just because I needed to basically be out there. And this is at a starting point where I hadn't run more than 400 meters in 10 years. And I was just like, and now I'm freaking on it, man. I've got like my GPS watch on. I'm not gonna like let myself off. I'm not gonna say,
mm,
oh, I'll just start with like a few. I'm like, I am going to be a freaking maniac because I've seen that that's what it takes to snap me out of what has been a 10-year rut where, once a year I'd be like, "Oh, I can totally sneak in some
mhm,
kettlebell swings and just kind of I just won't have so much ice cream." And it was like it wasn't working and I'm like, "All right,
yeah.
am I just going to be a Nancy or am I going to freaking ball up?" And, you know,
Yeah. I've had some trouble with this though in the past where I'm realizing that the small changes aren't working or I can't figure out how to implement them. And the big changes, like the massive action, just isn't on the table for whatever reason. And I end up just giving up. And I'm like, well, I guess it's just how things are going to be now. And I've had people in my life that I really respect be like, hey, perfect is the enemy of the good. Like, just because you can't fully solve this issue, problem, whatever it is, it doesn't mean you don't take steps to making it better, right? The way you're relating to this is very black and white, which isn't healthy. I get that you like to do like huge changes to like fully and perfectly solve things. That's just not feasible right now for whatever reason. And so you shouldn't just like turn the table over and give up.
if that's the case though, I would say maybe you're not ready to make the change. Like,
Mm,
again, going back to addiction, they're like, "We've tried and we did an intervention," and Dr. Drew would be like, "The next time he does that, he steals from you to pay for his drug habit, call the police. Throw him in jail. Get him
yeah.
get him arrested." Maybe that'll snap him out of it because the other option's the morgue. Like, if you're not if okay, you're not prepared for massive change, that's okay, then don't complain about the current state of affairs. Like, fine. But don't lie to yourself and say, "I'm gonna hang out in the middle, half-ass some stuff, and expect to have the kind of, massive action, massive change."
Yeah.
There's a quote here floating around in the back of my mind too it's one of those quotes that like haunts you. Like I think you shared one before the show about like who do you want to serve?
Yep.
Like there's sometimes these quotes that just haunt you. And do you know who Dan Gable is?
Mm-mm.
Just a gold medal wrestler, just an incredible like part of the wrestling community. And I was trying to look it up, I couldn't find it, but it's buried in my notes somewhere. But the point he goes, in 25 years, I think I missed one wrestling practice. Why? Because it was important to me. He said, every day I would do something for my family and I would do something for wrestling. And he said, If it's important, do it every day. And if it's not important, don't do it. And and he's like, just like, I never missed a wrestling. Why? Why? And for me, it's just like, if something's important to you, you do it every day. And you don't come up with an excuse and you don't say, I don't have enough time. And if it's not important, okay, do it when you feel like it or whatever. And I just thought that was such a profound, it's like why I talk to my parents every day. It's important to me. So I
Yeah.
talk to my parents every day. I have, when I was living in the Middle East, I talked to them every day. And so that quote was an example to me where it's just like, okay, you're really serious about getting healthy. What are you doing today? There's no rest days. There's no, what are you doing today to change your behavior? And so that always kind of like kicked me in the ass
Mhm.
about, so yeah, it was a Dan Gable quote that I love. Somebody will dig it up. But yeah,
That's
if you Google
nice.
around, you'll find it. Yeah.
That's
It's
good. I've
important to do
gotten
it
a
every
few.
day. And if it's not important, don't do it. I
Yeah, I
always like
like
that.
that. I wrote that down.
Yeah. Do you want to hear my second more out of there idea, or do you want more on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give us your
Yeah.
California thoughts.
The California take. Well, it is legal in all 50 states, but I got a prescription because dealt what I would describe as business owner anxiety. Just kind of like
The
that business
combine.
chatter. Just that the combine, the grim reaper is 6 inches behind me. And I got a prescription from a legit doctor. It's not some guy from The Simpsons, right? Like an actual doctor for ketamine. My a former friend of mine at Penn runs one of the largest companies in the space, Mind Bloom. You can talk to a doctor over Zoom. His name's Dylan Danon. He's a great guy. I was his pledge master, which is funny, like 20 years ago. But he is the CEO of this great company, and it's safe and whatever. It's doctor prescribed. And I got on with the doctor, and he was talking to me about this, and he said, John, and I had this experience. Ketamine in small, it's a microdose, right? It's a lozenge. I sit in my guest bedroom and put some headphones on for 90 minutes, and off I go. Um, he said ketamine is like when you have snow tracks in the snow, and what the ketamine does is it fills it in with fresh snow, and then it gives you an opportunity to create new tracks. But if you don't do the work, you'll go right back to the same tracks.
Mhm.
And the work could be talking to ChatGPT, it could be therapy, it could be habit, but it basically gives you a chance to break through that kind of like hard shell intellect and create some new pathways around gratitude or around presence or around mindfulness. And my experience definitely reflected that, which is it really helped me, or continues to help me. I'm not in the middle of a 4 week cycle right now, but it really helped me kind of get some space. But you know how sometimes, here's what I'd say, my last thing on this. You know how sometimes when you're working on a business problem and then somebody who's not close to the problem comes in out of left field and has this perspective that you're just like,
They're like,
because you're
"Have you
so,
tried emailing him?" And you're like,
yeah, like you're
"Shit, I never tried that."
so close to it.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like that, but it was all within my own mind where it was like, oh, I never realized that I feel this way because I'm so proud to be a dad that I never want them to have to worry about this or that. And it like clicked some neurons
Mhm.
together that I could not click when I was just sitting here drinking espresso at my desk. So that was it really, it was not a psychedelic actually, it's a disassociative. So it's
Yeah,
basically like an out of body experience in a box.
it's what they give you, like, if you come into the ER and you need to have, like, your arm cut off, like, they give this to you, right?
Yeah, so we did it was fentanyl or some ketamine where like in our trauma kits in my old work, we had fentanyl or ketamine lollipops where if a guy got his leg blown off, you'd tape it to his thumb and you'd say, suck on this. And then if he'd pass out, it would fall out. So you dosed it right. It was a really cool trick.
Oh, interesting.
And so he could suck it for pain relief. And then if he passed out, it would fall out of his
Yeah.
mouth so he wouldn't. So yeah,
Oh, I like that.
same thing, but it's a disassociative. So again, if you're of the totally doctor prescribed, I recommend Mind Bloom. They have guided music that you put on, and I personally got a lot out of it.
Yeah, that's definitely becoming a big thing around, the VC tech bro California circles. I've heard a lot about, heard a lot of people I respect,
Yeah,
talking about it the way that you have. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that yet, but
it
I'll
just
give
helped
it
me
some
with
thought.
anxiety. Like
Yeah.
it helped me with low level chatter where I just feel a little bit. I feel a little bit more centered, and it
Yeah.
wasn't like this. But to each their own, right? But I'd
Maybe
say
I'll make a
massive
post in
action.
Crane. I'm curious if any Crane members have dabbled.
And again, it's totally legal. It's not like some underground thing you get. You just
Yeah.
literally you go on their website and it's like buying Salesforce. I mean,
Yeah.
it's professionalized, right? It's
Right,
not,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not like, and I talked to a doctor who's a real doctor, who's an ER doctor, and he does it like on the side. And he's like, yeah, it changed my life. And I love being a part of this organization. We help a lot of people with anxiety and depression and mental health stuff. Right?
I'll tell you, this modern world is not kind to the brain function of humans.
Mm,
Something about the way our modern world is constructed with our culture
yeah.
is extremely hard on your on the mental health of Homo sapiens. And so and you can just look at rates of depression, rates of suicide, rates
Mm,
of anxiety, rates of teen suicide, like, it's a mess. I don't know why that's the
yeah.
case, but I don't know that it's very helpful to take a puritanical approach here and be like, "Well, you're just not tough enough." Like, there's
Yeah.
clearly something in the water, so to speak, that is causing Homo sapiens to struggle with our modern
It's that damn
setup.
fluoride. No.
Yeah. And so I think it's worthwhile to consider new solutions that wouldn't
Mm.
have been considered or necessary in the 1950s or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That's something I think about a lot.
I mentioned right before we got on, I mentioned a book, um, I like to my wife and I sometimes read to each other at night, and the book we were reading last night was a book by this philosopher like Alain de Botton, who's I think Swiss English or Swiss, yeah, I think Swiss English, modern philosopher, and the book is called Small Pleasures, and every chapter is about a different small pleasure, and the one we read last night ties into what you just said, and it was about the pleasure of small islands.
Mm,
And it's just like a 3 pages, and it's like you're flying in and you can see it, and there's one nice restaurant and there's one nice beach, and there's something about humans where being in a metropolis and you lost in the sauce, and being on a small island gives you a sense of containment, and you can fantasize about living there and what your life would be, and you know you'd be happy. And it was
yeah.
this really cool, and it reminds me of what you said, which is it's like human beings weren't necessarily designed to live in an apartment with 10,000 people with a million people around them. And being on a small
Yeah.
island
We we
like
also
harkens you.
we also weren't built to have the knowledge of the entire world and
Yeah.
all history in our pockets, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
So
But
that
yeah, I love
chapter,
something
when
about the
you just
paradox
bought
of
the book,
choice.
yeah, you just bought the book, and it's that chapter's a cool one. I mean, he has, he wrote a chapter about grandmothers, and then a chapter about thunder. And it's a
Mhm.
really cool like learning to take pleasure in small things, which I really think is an
I
important
think
part of like
I'm gonna
mindfulness.
read this with Gem in the sauna. Sounds like a great
Yeah, it's a one, and they're 3 pages. They're nothing,
yeah.
right? So and it's really cool, and it, oftentimes kicks off conversations and stuff like that. So, incredible author, one of my favorite kind of modern philosophers.
Cool.
Yeah,
Let's talk about familiar media.
sure.
So, I was telling you that you needed to watch Mad Men because it's a great
Yep.
show and kind of relevant to some of the media stuff that you and I are talking about these days. And you're like, "Well, I watched one episode, didn't really catch me." And then you're talking about, "I'm just watching Seinfeld reruns right now." And that's
Yeah.
funny because I love Seinfeld. I've watched that whole series several times through. And Mad Men is one of those for me. I've watched that whole
Yeah.
series twice through. And there is something about that familiar media that when you are running multiple businesses, got young kids, you're facing new challenges every day.
Yeah.
It is feel a little it feels a little daunting to be, like, picking up a brand new series and trying to
Correct.
follow along with a complex
Correct.
plot.
Correct. Or even to me, like, I love Larry David. I think he's probably like my favorite. But even watching Curb Your Enthusiasm at night, I've realized I can't do because my brain is so just like frazzled from rip and work, 3 kids, bath time, bedtime, that I need to watch like Gilligan's Island. And it's an episode that I've seen before.
Yeah.
Like, like, literally, it's like, or I need to watch, one of my other cruise ship documentaries. There's a couple on YouTube. I love cruise ships. I think they're fascinating. You've heard me mention that. So it's like I need like a salve on my brain,
Yeah.
and I'm not interested in being like, wait, is that the same guy from the first episode of I'm like, bro, I just want like 2 jokes, a couple moves, like, and then I just want to like turn my brain off. And so it's the same with books too. It's not just like I'll reread couple of the same books or types of podcasts. Like the only podcast I've been able to listen to lately is some movie one that's like them talking about Die Hard
Yeah.
or them talking about Elf because it's like I can't listen to the Founders Pod.
Definitely
I
not at
just
night.
I don't have it. I my brain does not have the frickin' space, man. And so I've given myself permission to not yeah, Mad Men will be good at a different phase in my life, but right now, dude, I just I can't deal with like conflict. It's like I
It's
deal with
really
that all
interesting.
day.
I totally relate to what you're saying, but it's not something I've heard other people talk about. And I don't know if it's just because you and I are just at a particularly busy moment in our lives right now, or I don't know, but I do feel like that sense of obligation to like get through some of these books that have been sitting around and
Mm,
some of these movies and series. And almost feel like guilty that I'm like
yeah,
watching a rerun or just flipping through YouTube shorts for an hour. I'm like, oh, I should be watching a show or, a
yeah.
movie, not just this,
Reading the great books.
brain rot.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's like what I need. And maybe you're kinda giving me permission to feel a little bit less guilty about it too, because let's face it, we're busy people and our brains are running pretty hard all day.
That was where I went with it, which was just trying to be gentle on myself for
Yeah.
saying, right now, I'm going to watch the Summer of George episode again because I know the beats.
This
It's
is the summer of
stimulating,
George.
but not too stimulating, right? And I'm not going to go like watch the John Adams documentary. Like I want to. It's on the list. Someday maybe, baby.
So
Like
the John
once my
Adams documentary is great, by the way.
I know it again, I
Yeah.
haven't seen it and I'm
I
obsessed
wanna
with
watch
US
the Civil
history.
War one. That's the one
And
I
I'm obsessed with US history.
yeah.
Right? But right now at this particular phase in my life, it feels like just like, bro, I just want to watch, some old Star Trek TNG. Like
Yeah.
just basic not season 1 cuz Deanna not Troy, who was the security officer who
Season
they
1's
killed off was
horrible.
horrible. Yeah, season 1's
Yeah.
horrible. Skip season 1, but the security officer, the blonde woman with short hair,
Yeah.
horrid. And then I think
What's
she
her
was
name?
replaced with
Tosh or Tar I
Tosh. Yeah,
not Tosh. It's close.
it's something like Tosh.
Yeah.
And then she came
Tasha.
back like it's
Tasha Yar,
Tasha?
right?
Tasha Yar?
Tasha Yar, I think that was her name.
Tasha Yar? Yeah. But
Maybe.
season 1 of TNG, horrible. Get to season 2,
So
3,
Voyager is that for me. Voyager is like my comfort food of
TNG.
Star Trek.
It's
Yeah.
TNG for me. Yeah. I love TNG. Like when like the Borg when they finally start to get into some of the Borg
Yeah.
storylines and stuff, I'm like, this is just fantastic. This is
Peak
just
TV.
exactly what I need right now. So, yeah. So I guess I guess the theme here is just like if you feel this way too, and you find yourself like in some of the same tracks to like be gentle with yourself because I've just found probably for the last couple of years, I just now what's funny though is the reason why I know I'm a subject of my environment, which was back in the day, I was in a I was kind of stuck in a cubicle for a year. I was like waiting for some training. And my intellectual internal life was explosive. I was reading widely. I was studying Arabic. Because I was so understimulated in my professional context that I had to go find that stimulation through language and
Yeah.
reading the great Dostoevsky and trying to figure out and so I know it's kind of like what else is going on in my life that like drives my appetite or lack of appetite for some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's like you only have so many what do the kids talk about? How many spoons are in the air or something?
Yeah. Hey,
How
one
many
sec. Some guys are at my door. I gotta go get my door.
Okay.
Talk solo.
Yeah, I'll just I'll carry the pod solo here for the next 10 minutes while John deals with personal business. So yeah, I mean, personal media consumption seems to be reflective of what's happening in our broader worlds. I'm trying to think if I can make a recommendation. So I've been really enjoying fiction audiobooks. Brandon Sanderson has a couple great series, and I'm working through the Stormlight series right now. I'm on book 5, which is it's about I think it's like 70 hours of audio.
What's that?
Brandon Sanderson's 5th Stormlight book is about
Oh,
70 hours of the audiobook. It's insanely
did you
long.
reread Horatio Hornblower?
I did, yeah.
Right. I reread Dune. I
Yep.
love Dune so much. I just find it like I read a lot of Robert Heinlein. Like, there's just a couple. It's just like I know these
Yeah.
characters. I'm back on the journey. I'm not like sitting there trying to figure out. So,
There's
yeah.
something really interesting about returning to media over decades, and it's fascinating that you relate to different characters differently, and
Mm,
you learn different lessons from them. So, like, when I was watching Seinfeld back, I remember my parents watching Seinfeld on TV, I thought about those characters in a certain way because they were old, quote, "old people," and I was a
now you're
kid.
older than
And
them.
now I'm older than they were, and I'm like, "Oh, look at these young people in their apartment. We're having fun in
Yeah.
the city," right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I remember when I got to do some of that stuff, and you think about things differently.
Yeah.
Same thing with media, like Horatio Hornblower. I mean, I first read that series as a teenager. My dad had the books, really liked them, and you know, Horatio at the beginning of the series is also a teenager and is sort of relating to that and like, oh, that could be
Yeah.
me. And then, but now I'm a dad. And so it's just, if I find it very interesting and like the lessons that you take away. Same thing with movies, Home Alone, right? You were the kid
Very.
when you first saw it. Now you're the parents and you're like, oh
Yeah.
my
How do
God,
you
what if I
leave?
left my kid, in the house by accident?
I saw a take that the homeless guy who becomes like his friend at the end.
Yeah.
I saw this take somewhere that's it's actually Jesus.
Mm.
Like, because, like, he puts his hand down and he's got, like, the stigmata, like,
Mm.
and, like, there's this whole, like, Jesus parallel that people have, like, taken from Home Alone. The one thing I was gonna say, there's a great quote that says, it's like, uh, "No man ever crosses the same stream twice because the
Yes.
stream changes and so does he." It's
Yep.
like you never watch the same movie twice because, or, it's like you never experience a book the same way twice.
Yeah.
That's how I
And
feel about reading some of the great stuff like Fountainhead or Shogun or some of my favorite kind of like pillar books of my life. I find myself revisiting them.
Yeah, I mean, there's an activity with my kids that was really fun when I was a kid, and I have all these fond memories of it. It involves going outside
Mm,
when it's cold, and there's a bunch of this white stuff just everywhere, all over the ground, sometimes
not
inches
familiar.
of it piled up. It's called snow,
Wow. Okay,
and
I'll have to wait. Let me take a note. How do you spell that?
SNOW,
Okay, good. I'll have to Google it or I'll ask
and
AI. I'll ask AI. We'll put it in the
sledding
show
and
notes. We'll put it in the show notes
snowman and
for other people from California
yeah.
who aren't familiar. We'll put it in the show notes.
Snow angels and snowball fights and
Yeah.
snow days, all of that is just very integral to my childhood and just
Yeah.
so special. And getting to be on the other side of that experience as the parent now is really fun and unique and rewarding and keys into all. I'm very nostalgic, so keys into all my
Me
nostalgia,
too.
like
Me too.
um, sledding, and you like put your kid between your legs in front of you on the
Oh
sled, and
yeah.
you go down the hill, and they kind of fall out, and they laugh or they cry, and just then you go in and you have hot cocoa, and it's
Yeah.
a whole
It's
thing,
incredible.
man.
I was like 100 out of 10 excited for this holiday season because my oldest son is now like fully in it.
Yeah.
And it's just like because it's you get to relive a lot of that stuff.
You
Like
put up
we
the
have an
Christmas
advent.
tree, they're like,
Yeah. We have an advent calendar. Dad does it. What number is it? Can we get the chocolate? Like, and I remember that as a kid, like how fun like opening the little squares
"Yep."
were. And it's something I bought for 15 bucks on Amazon. So
Yeah, we try to do
uh
the Lego advent calendar every year, but they were sold out this year.
oh, we do chocolate because we're terrible people. But okay, anything more on this before we get to our last topic?
No, I think we're good. We're good on that.
Okay. So I will introduce this one, which is, it's a mix of, we do a lot of soft discussions here. And then this is definitely like a more of a forward looking or hard one, which I think is a really important theme. And you have some disagreements or comments or whatever. So I saw an exchange, and I think it was Vercel, or it might have been like Ramp, or it was some like, powerful company. And the founder or the COO did a whole big podcast about their go-to-market strategy. You could find it if you Googled around it about how effective it was. And they used AI to take their account executives and make them 7 times more effective. And they had real numbers. And these are real companies that have great go-to-market. And then a guy came in on the conversation and said, I was the guy who built that. I was like their go-to-market engineer, the lead of that team. And here are my comments. And it was really good, intelligent stuff. And then an investor or a VC went in the comments and said, why didn't you raise $10 million and just go do this for other people? And among other
Basically
things,
productize the
yeah,
go
why
to
don't you
market thing.
take that
Yeah.
magic, put it in a box, and create a
Because
SaaS?
every
And
SaaS company needs a solution for go to market.
every
Yeah.
company needs go to market. Like
We're sure.
that's what we're building at Sagan right now. is a really scalable go to market. And among other things, he said, first of all, I love my job, whatever. But the second thing he said was a lot of the magic and the benefit is from hard coding these tools, i.e., it is not something that you can self onboard, click a few buttons, and now Peter's got a great go to market engine. And that last 20% of customization or hard coding drives 50 or 75% of the efficacy, is what, and I'm seeing that in my own business, which is with the power of these tools, it's it's a lot of it is in the last couple moves, right? Like the difference between what you have at Crane for your talent pool stuff versus you could have bought an off the shelf database tool and you're like, yeah, I mean it's close, it's 50%. And so I just thought the implications of that observation in terms of what business models it does and how
Yeah.
you maintain those tools and how you make money and do you develop them or you hire, like it's just a really important observation because I'm also seeing it and I thought it was really important to mention to you.
Yeah, this idea of solutions that require hard coding at the endpoints, versus you can sign up with a few clicks and just customize a few options is very interesting. It's something I've thought about a lot in my career. And, property management is kind of in the middle.
Mm.
Um, and I'll make this really real. You can't sign up for our service online. You can't just go to rlpmg.com and click sign up and sign the document online. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I've thought about, well, what if you could? What if we set up a little form on our website? And so if you were browsing and talking with ChatGPT at 3 in the morning, um, you liked what you saw, you could sign a 1 year management agreement with our company. And then, we would mail you a box and you could mail the keys back. And, I could envision how this online sign up flow could go. But there's just too much going on. It's too customized, it's too tailored. There's an onboarding process, there's screening that we do, and so you just can't do a self-serve onboarding. And I ended up stumbling on this essay by Mark Andreessen years and years and years ago. It looks like he wrote it in 2017. I think I read it shortly after he put it out. It's called Distribution. Actually, sorry, it's by Ben Horowitz. And he talks in this essay about the complexity of the implementation of your product, on an axis against, how uh, how you deliver the product. So he says, there's two ways that you can deliver a product. It can be delivered online, or it has to be delivered by a service or a salesperson. And he says there's three ways, that you can uh, define how much assistance a user needs to onboard and get started with the product. A is no assistance required, like Slack. B is minor assistance required. That would be maybe like Gusto, like a new payroll software. Like you probably need a little help, but not a lot. C would be major assistance required, and that would be like a new ERP, right? And so and he goes on to explain like when these
That's
two axes
fascinating.
intersect,
Yeah.
how does that affect your go-to-market strategy? It's one of the best essays I've ever read. It's called Distribution. We'll link it. But this is reminding me of that discussion. It's not unique to this age of AI and SaaS. It's a problem that's been around for a long time, and you really need to think hard about the solution that you're designing, who is going to be approving it, and how easy it is it to implement. How customized is it? Think about Oracle or whatever. I don't even know what they sell, but it
Yeah.
seems like something that requires a lot of customization. I don't think you can go to oracle.com and sign up.
Yeah. I doubt it.
That doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
not a good product, and it
Palantir
does
is the
yeah,
great.
Palantir is the
Yeah.
example he uses. It doesn't mean it's not a good product, and it doesn't mean you can't make money selling it. It's just you need a different distribution
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah. A couple thoughts pop up, and I have some specific examples from Sagan. The first thing is I don't think it's all or nothing. So I've used oftentimes at Sagan this idea of made to measure suits. So we don't do off the rack men's warehouse, but we also don't start with a roll of fabric. And suit supply was revolutionary because it had premium fabrics and it was made to measure. It wasn't custom suiting because now the price or the brain damage to get that suit fitting perfectly is at a price point, but the customization is enough. And there's these kind of like these
Mhm.
intersecting vectors around scalability and usefulness and price point. So I think you have to be intelligent. So for I'll give a specific example. One of the smartest things we did a year ago was at Sagan, we were talking about switching to like a big ATS, like Recruit CRM or one of the Treehouse or whatever the hell they were. And I said, guys, I know we're going to have some short term pain here, but we need to build this in Airtable. Now, we did not build our own database architecture. We did not start custom coding an entire backend. We're like, we're going to start with these primary colors, which is the equivalent of a made to measure suit. But because we're doing that, it unlocks right now because of that decision. It wasn't saving money on the ATS. It was right now. I suspect we're saving about 100 grand a month because because of things that we're only able to do because we're on Airtable. You cannot do that if you're in Treehouse's ATS ecosystem. And so it's like, I think the other thing you need to level set is like the elevation at which you do the customization. It's not, I'm trying to replace AWS. It's also not this kind of gimmicky, superficial thing. So I think when you're looking at where this hard coding exists, I'm not trying to create an LLM. I'm trying to take an LLM, but then have my go-to-market outreach
Yeah.
on LinkedIn be hard coded because that's where the magic is, not whether I use DeepSeek or Claude.
This is oh, man, I'll tell you, Lead Simple has really wrestled with this,
Yeah.
because Lead Simple, the CRM, product, which is still great, we use it every day,
Yep.
um, is you can, self onboarding, right? It's I mean,
Yep.
CRMs are brainless, right? So you can self onboard the CRM, but when they launched their process product, um, it requires a lot of build out. You got to
Yeah.
build your lease renewal process. You have to build your move in process,
Yeah.
and every property management company has special ways they do that that they feel very strongly about. Theirs is the one and only correct way to do it. So your first thought is, well, let's just build kind of like a default lease renewal process and that'll be how it works. Well, you run into like, well, that's not our policy. We don't talk to tenants before 60 days before their lease is up because the rule in California is if you do that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so what you end up with is like, here, you figure it out. You build it.
And then they don't use it and they churn.
Exactly. So now they spun up a whole, motion to implement, right? So they
Yep.
they train people on how to do this. Then they say, "Okay, we're gonna sell you an implementation with the SaaS subscription. It's $7,000. We'll build your first 3 processes with you, and we'll train you how to build the other 4 that you're gonna need." And everyone's kinda, "I don't really wanna pay $7,000 for that." So then they tried discounting. "Well, we don't really wanna discount the value of what we do," and so then this whole ecosystem of independent, um, implementation experts springs up, like consultants who are like, "Oh, I'll build out your Lead Simple processes for you for $4,000." And Lead Simple's kind of like, "Well, we didn't really like that." No, actually, we do like that because now we see that they're selling our product for us, and they're, you know, it's very confusing and hard to figure out. At least that was my observation. I had no answers for them. I was like, I don't really know what you should do because there's a couple directions you could go with this. You could leave it to the third party consultants. You could build out that function in house, get really good and competitive at it, or you could just say, we're building Loose renewal process, and when you sign up, you're going into our flow, and there's 3 or 4 customizations. But other than that, you're kind of locked into how we do it. So there's this sliding scale of customization versus power and sort of configurability. And then there's a sliding scale of like in-house versus out of house, pre-built. There's a lot to it. And it's something that SaaS companies and consultants all face of like, how much do we allow our customers to take us on a journey to their specific solution?
The one trap there is what I assume is happening, which is you try to split the difference. You don't have an opinion on that, right? And I think that that's the hard struggle there is at some point you need to say, guys, we're going to lose 20% of customers because we're going to force a $3,800 implementation package, and it's not optional because or we're going to say, guys, we're going to have high churn in this category because people are going to sign up and then they're not going to use it because they're not going to take advantage. We need to pour all that energy into customer acquisition so we can grow our way through the churn problem. But like that clear-eyed focus and, well, we're going to give them the choice, and it's like that is to me turns into like the
Mhm.
gray muck of a non-defined strategy, which I think, well, that then we'd have to have a whole team of, and we don't want to be in the service business. We're a software business, but we can have a couple, but only, and it's like
Yeah, there's all this like
that's it's a
if
good
more than
way
a
to
certain
get.
percentage of your revenue as a SaaS company is non-recurring, it
Yeah.
affects your valuations. Like, well, we got to keep, the services revenue under 10% of the MRR and oh
Tell them
my
to come to
gosh.
tell them to come to Sagan and make us a trusted partner, and we can staff it with global talent who are experts in their tool and can do it at exceptionally low cost. And I'll do it at low cost because I want to acquire. Oh, the only thing is I can try to sell to Sagan to those property managers that you bring me. But like that to me, the we've worked with some software companies who use us or use our talent as a way to solve this problem, which is, hey, you just bought HubSpot and you have no idea how to plug it in. Let's get you a HubSpot expert for $1,700 from Sagan who's going to like make it cook. And that's a great kind of value add, and it's done at arm's length. So it doesn't really mess
Yeah.
up their core business, that kind of thing. It's like a value added reseller.
The engineer in me just hates all of this. The engineer in me is like, no, we are going to find the one true and correct way to run a lease renewal process. We are going to hard code it into our software, and every property manager in the country is going to run it our way. This messy implementation thing, I think about the same thing with HubSpot. It's like, nah, come on, man. Like, there's a
That's
sales
so,
function.
but you know that there's not, there's not an objective truth about an onboarding process, if only because of legislative differences.
Well, there is that, but that could be accounted for. We could code that all in, right? Yeah, I know I'm probably too extreme on it. I no one likes the implementation process. The customers hate it. The company
Of
hates
course not.
it.
It goes to Hormozy, which is it creates too big of a gap between when the purchase is made and when they feel the pleasure. And
Yeah.
implementation is a big fat thing that sits in that.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to just say it's one click and we build an outbound marketing engine, but we all know that doesn't work.
I'm going through this with Ramp right now. So we're our corporate accounting group is kind of forcing us to switch over to Ramp, which I was thinking about doing anyway, so that's fine. And I there's this whole application process before you can even become a customer. And so this morning, I submitted my application, and I'm gonna wait
Smart, man.
3 days to hear back. It's like,
And
guys,
what do you think their churn is? Probably significantly different if it was 3 clicks and
yeah,
an export from your QuickBooks, right?
it's true. But like the excitement of onboarding with Ramp is gonna be dwindled in 3 days, right? Like I want to get all my
Yeah.
employees with cards and receipt
Yeah. Yeah.
matching, and like in 3 days, who knows what I'm gonna be doing?
It reminds me of Kayvon, and we've looked, and we still might look very closely at franchising for, some different parts of Sagan or different spinoffs. And he's like, we're talking about B2B service franchises versus say like a McDonald's. And he's like, dude, the deal with B2B, it's easy come, easy go because they join for 50 grand. They try for 6 months, it doesn't work, they walk out. When you build $1.2 million leasehold build out for McDonald's, you're gonna make it work.
Hmm,
But you got to get 1.2, right? You got to have somebody who's going to put down 10% and get a
skin in
loan
the
and
game.
site correct. And so he's like, look, there's advantages and disadvantages. You'll grow very fast in B2B, but you might just shrink just as fast. And so it's like, look, there's a speed to having instant onboarding, but they'll churn just as fast. But there's a right. And so it reminds me of his comment about like a build out type franchise versus an accounting one that you set up for 25 grand and in 2 weeks and it's all online onboarding versus you must come to Hamburger University for a month and then we might offer you the chance to open up a location. Those guys don't churn. And
Yeah,
so there's definitely some interesting kind of like psychology around that or
there
challenges with
is.
that. So
There is a sunk cost thing. There's a skin in the
hugely
game
skin in the
thing.
game, sunk
Yeah.
cost, all that stuff. Absolutely. Totally agree. Pre-selection, like all that stuff. So, all right, let's wind it up, man. You got any tools, techniques, things that you've been doing?
Um, let's see.
I'm gonna try really hard to not make mine constantly a Notebook LM tribute, which is hard.
I'll just briefly mention it. I got away from having metrics for my direct reports this year.
Mm,
Starting in like Q2 and through the rest of the year, I just completely fell off. I wasn't reviewing the metrics with them of my direct reports because I
yeah.
like all my direct reports to have like 3 to 8 metrics that we look at on a biweekly basis. That was a big mistake.
Hmm.
It wasn't good for them, and it
Yeah.
wasn't good for me, it wasn't good
Yeah.
for
How
the
to keep
business.
score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm getting back into it, and I'm getting excited again about building nice scorecards with metrics, and it's really the best way to truly know what's happening in your business and with your direct reports, and
Hmm.
be able to sort of um I love the idea of, the old thing, what if it matters, measure it.
Yeah.
Like, just measuring something is usually enough with a good player that they will start to give it attention and focus. You don't even really have to say anything.
We should do a whole episode about numbers and
Yeah,
scorecards and pairing metrics and OKRs and
we should.
rocks. And like, that's a really good, rich topic because I am constantly pulled in different directions on it and
Yeah.
juking the
So
stats. And yeah,
I just rebuilt the scorecards for most of my direct reports. I'm excited to start reporting in on them again and seeing the
awesome.
numbers move. And it's just, just for anyone out there who may also have fallen off on, metrics,
Yeah,
or maybe you never started, just jump on that.
love it. Cool. All right. I'm going to read a poem from Wendell Berry.
Okay.
Ties into the first or second thing we talked about. Piece of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free.
Amen. Oh, sorry.
it's
No, that was good.
that's a naturalist prayer, not a particularly religious prayer, but I like it.
Yeah, that's nice, man. That's good stuff. I love that you're into
Yeah.
poetry.
Oh yeah, dude. Big poetry. Big poetry maximalist.
Yeah.
So
All
cool,
right.
man.
Good
All
show.
right. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.